All right, let's get this party started. This video caught my interest. Somebody sent it to me in the Discord. It's called The Manufactured Authenticity of Brett Cooper. Just so you guys know, Brett Cooper is basically the girl version of Ben Shapiro. I don't really dislike Brett Cooper. You know, I'm obviously not a conservative guy. But, you know, I don't mind Brett Cooper. I don't mind Ben Shapiro either. I don't think they're particularly bad. You know, they're all right. But I'm kind of curious. It's from Jose. Not the guy who mows my lawn, but he does a good job. But this is a content creator who makes pretty good stuff. I've seen some of his stuff before, so I'm curious. And again, the manufactured authenticity of Brett Cooper. Also, if any moment of this video resonates with you, timestamp it down below. I appreciate it a lot. Let's get this party started.
2023.
Start over.
On November 27th, 2023, Merriam-Webster declared that their word of the year was authentic. If you're like most people, you probably read that headline and went, huh. And
if you're like most people, you probably didn't read it because you're not a nerd that reads dictionary headlines.
then moved on with your life. 2023 wasn't just the year for authentic, it was also the year for the new right-wing darling, Brett Cooper. During that year, she saw her channel rise enormously, and currently the comment section with Brett Cooper now has over 4 million subscribers.
Well, I mean, she's relatable with the kids. Let's be absolutely honest with you here. The reason Brett Cooper is popular is she's smart. Like, she's a smart person. She's intelligent. And then she's an attractive young girl that a lot of conservatives like to use deepfake technology on. Okay? But it's definitely a factor. Being like traditionally attractive is something that's a factor. That's why I'm so popular, because I'm so attractive, you know. It's a big part of it, you know. Some people are just born lucky. And some people are you. I'm just kidding.
And she's one of the most prominent voices on the conservative media company, The Daily Wire.
Sure.
For those that love her, she's the bright-eyed, clever Zoomer who is giving a youthful face to conservative commentary. And her detractors would describe her as a phony cutout regurgitating propaganda while gaming social media.
I don't really watch her. I don't really hate watch her very much, so I guess I wouldn't know how phony baloney she might be. I don't know. I don't really watch her enough, though. Hey, thank you so much from Carmen Cristiello. Hopefully I said that right, for the $20. Hey, I want to say thanks. Thanks. Seeing your boogie VODs helped me see I was doing the same thing in my start to YouTube/streaming. I now have a schedule I'm sticking to. Sometimes hearing the obvious for someone is needed. Love you, Papa. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that what I was saying had a positive impact on you, brother. And I appreciate the $20. Very generous. You didn't have to do that.
I wanted to dig a little deeper than either of those readings, though, and understand her not just through the videos she creates, but the context she exists in and how it reflects our own desire for authenticity. Okay. Although she was born in Bellingham, Washington, Brett Cooper was raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Wasn't she another one that wanted to be like a famous like movie star or something? A lot of these conservative people, they seem to want to be actors at some point, which I find kind of interesting. And then they kind of just go conservative. I wonder why. The drastic shift. I don't know. Maybe they feel rejected by the artist community. So they decide that they're going to embrace their roots of conservatism. Thank you so much for the 18-month small guy from Omega Ocean. What's up, Sussy Baka? Happy Sunday to one and all. Thank you, brother.
Her upbringing included a mix of homeschooling and public education, and she emancipated herself at 15 to avoid being caught in the middle of her parents' divorce.
She emancipated herself at 15? Wow, she has an interesting backstory. What the hell?
She describes her upbringing as being focused on values, leading to her conservative political position in the present. Those values, particularly from her objective's mother, with whom she is very close, were directly influenced by Ayn Rand.
But I feel like whatever values you gained, not to be rude, but I mean, if these values led to such a toxic, nasty divorce between your parents that you had to divorce yourself from your parents, that's interesting. That's something to be. I like more traditional values, like get married, have kids, do that stuff. But I also like, you know, gay people, and I like being in love. And I don't think that marriage in order needs to be permanent. You know, I think that the existence of a divorce can almost be a positive thing. It should keep you in check to make sure you try to keep your spouse happy, right? Well, okay.
Raised in a political household by any means. My mom is a student of objectivism. She adopted Ayn Rand's cat after she died.
I couldn't find a record of the cat's name, but I hope it was called Feel Ayn Rand.
Haha, that's silly.
Although it's been speculated that she was indoctrinated by her
she looks like Michael Jackson here.
Mother, Brett Cooper pushes back on that idea.
You know, I've had people say, like, your mother indoctrinated you. And I was like, well, what would you say would be indoctrination? Like, I was not, being told about political policies or anything like that. She just raised me as any good parent would, with the values that she believed were important.
This is a fair...
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty normal. That's how everybody is, no? That they raise you, like, you raise you with the values that they find to be important. Like my mom did the same thing. You know, she didn't indoctrinate me into anything. I'm older, and I have the ability to make my own decisions on what I want to think, feel, and believe. But obviously, I'm gonna be impacted to some degree by the way that my mother raised me, because my mother raised me.
Fair point, and an important step to understanding how Cooper ended up where she did. A child having the same politics as their parent is not necessarily a product of brainwashing, and
Well, no, it's typical.
is likely just a product of
I mean, where does it go from like education to brainwashing? When do we take that step? Like, what's the differentiating factor?
growing up in the same household. It's much easier to just say that Brett Cooper's politics were shaped by her upbringing.
Yeah, I would say that. But I think that the where I would say is like when it's forced, when you feel something different and your parent doesn't let you, and they get, angry at you, and they get like they yell at you, and they're like, no, this is wrong, you're wrong, and they deny things from you. I have differences in opinion with my mother. She's never, like, we've had conversations about politics, but she's never been like, no, you're stupid. You know what I mean? She's like, okay, that's just what I believe. So,
and having a close relationship with an objectivist mother obviously would inform her views in the future. At a young age, Brett Cooper took an interest in acting and eventually found enough success that she moved to Los Angeles. Perhaps her most notable role was in the 2018 series Heathers, based
how the fuck can you afford to live in Los Angeles, man? That's crazy. Especially with all the food I eat. I need to live somewhere nicer.
on the movie of the same name. It ran for a single season, and Cooper explains its cancellation as a result of heavy edits made in response to a recent school shooting.
Because there's gun violence in Heathers, they scrapped it and basically recut the entire TV show, took out a lot of the offensive parts, and then aired it. And then Paramount said, you're not doing another season. This was too politically incorrect.
Yeah, maybe the show sucked too, but...
While working in Los Angeles, Cooper started moving away from acting towards the production side of the entertainment industry. She explains,
or maybe it was amazing. What do I know?
that at the time she felt she had little control of her life as an actor and wanted to make some kind of change, but still be involved in creating entertainment. While on the production side, though, she became increasingly disenchanted. She started to feel a rising sense of politics in the industry and that her own values were not being represented.
And then during BLM
I guess that kind of makes sense a little bit.
and COVID, the entire...
Yeah, I mean, things were crazy. 2020 was crazy. I've always been a progressive individual. And even for me, man, COVID was crazy. Like, COVID was real. I knew people that I loved that passed away. My uncle passed away with COVID. It's a sad thing. Devastating stuff. I sometimes live with guilt that, like, I'm only successful because of those horrific things that happened. Because the COVID is the only reason I'm successful. Let's be absolutely real. I was able to grab onto a spark of people's interest, and I've been able to hold on to that for the past 4 years. But things got very political, very left-leaning. People were home. People were outraged. People were engaging in what I would call well-meaning hysteria. Things went fucking ballistic, and yeah, it just was crazy,
Industry just became so political. And my job became less about find good stories and more about, could you find a Native American story for us? Could you find a Black story for us? Like, rather than just reading scripts for the value in them, it was like, we need something that is like politically woke. We need to be on the cusp of this. And I understood it because that is what was making money at the time.
Yeah.
That's what people wanted. And there was a lot of pressure. But I was like, okay, no, I don't like this. Like, that doesn't feel authentic to me.
That's an interesting use of the term authentic, and it speaks to how her values shape her career trajectory.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think it's an interesting use of authentic. I mean, there has been a lot of, politically charged things. And it feels like there's some pieces of media that are more focused on adding inclusivity than making a good script. I like inclusivity is totally fine. Like, I think it's fun. When you have a shitty script on your inclusivity, there's a problem there, no? Star Wars, I think, is a great example. That sucked. The newer Star Wars movies sucked, specifically 8 and 9. And it feels like they decided to add inclusivity, and then they were like, yeah, you know what? We have inclusivity. We don't really need to worry too much about a good script, which seems bigoted in a different capacity, in my opinion.
During the 2020 COVID lockdowns, Cooper started making social media videos for PragerU and Young Americans for Liberty, perhaps feeling that this was a more authentic expression of her values. She was eventually contacted by the Daily Wire, saw her as a good fit for a project they were developing. What would eventually be called the comment section with Brett Cooper was not Cooper's idea originally, but rather came from young people within the Daily Wire.
It was...
Other people... Would they give her the show other people pitched? Probably because she's just better. I mean, probably more charismatic than other people.
All people my age. They were sitting in the Daily Wire offices saying, we need content for us.
Brett Cooper was discovered by Daily Wire
I mean, that makes sense. Trying to appeal to like young people when it comes to the particular values, sure.
staffer Gracie Blount Crook.
I spent like 3 weeks scouring the internet for like young, cute girls who could like be the host of the show or whatever.
It sounds so weird when they explain it. I mean, it makes perfect business sense, but it sounds so weird when they explain it.
And I found you, and I remember very distinctly.
See, if I said that, I was looking through the internet for young girls to host my show. People would think I'm a fucking creep, bro. What the hell?
Slacking Kobe and saying BC is my girl. Like, we have to go with her or whatever.
BC is my girl. This woman, girl, you're like 40 years old. What the hell are you? You can't be using that lingo. What, you're like my age. What the fuck?
Brooke also designed the set with the help of her mother, and according to Cooper, it cost a few $1,000s to put together. This YouTube channel's videos would be shot with a 3-camera setup, and we see Brett Cooper make use of that throughout many of her videos. The first video to the comment section was uploaded on March 1st, 2022.
Okay, so
Look at how casual she's sitting, guys. She's got her knee up in the air. She's one of the cool kids, guys. It's freaking awesome.
we all do it. We stay up way later than we should, laying in bed, scrolling on Instagram and TikTok, trying to find
Yeah, jacking off gooning. It's terrible.
content that is not angry leftists having a meltdown.
I'm not sure what her exact resources were.
I'll tell you one thing. If your comment section is full of angry leftists, or your video section is full of angry leftists in your For You page or your For You feed, it's your fault. You want to see that. You want to be outraged by that. Oh, I hate it when I see all these crazy women saying men are bad. No, you want to see that because that's the kind of content that gets you going. It gets you riled up. You might not like it, but you engage with it. So if maybe aware of that. My shit's full of puppies and babies because I want to have a baby, and puppies are cute, and also very racist memes. But pretend I didn't say that.
When she debuted, but in a September 2022 video, we were introduced to Brett Cooper's team, which consists of 5 different people providing support. Since this video was in
Like emotional?
2022, and according to the LinkedIn pages of the people mentioned, at least one of them doesn't work at the Daily Wire anymore, it's hard to know what the status of this team is today. She does still have a team, though, and at the very least, there's this guy named Jared who seems to be with her as of February 2024.
Gives me gay simp vibes. But that's not bad. When I said that, I didn't mean it negatively. I just meant like that was something, I have a pretty big gaydar in my pants, if you know what I'm saying. It's not big.
Saw him during a live stream when she had to call for some tech support.
Jared's coming to save the day because he has the login information.
According to Brett Cooper, she writes
Does she not have the login information?
all her videos with her team handling video editing and social media posting.
Damn, you guys write? Oh, that's like a elementary. I can't write. I can't do it.
Brett Cooper's start on YouTube was unlike most other video creators on here. She had a team working with her, financial resources to build a set, and access to an existing audience on the Daily Wire.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense though. YouTube is becoming like is a legitimate platform. It's like a legitimate competitive financial platform. It is competing against Netflix. It isn't competing against Hulu. It's competing against cable. It is a competitor to all these things in a pretty meaningful way. It just gives individuals the ability to kind of write their own story, kind of come up with themselves. I mean, there's the buy-in to doing YouTube is very low. It's still money. Like you need some money. But the buy-in, if you want to start making YouTube content, you need like maybe $3,000. You have to. I mean, not even. You can get like a crappy computer. You can get a decent webcam for like $100. You can get like a decent mic for $80. You can get a computer for $1,000, and you just have to watch videos, and you just need a decent internet package. But even then, you don't, because you don't have to stream. You could just make video content. But yeah, some people take it more seriously, and they go to as far as Daily Wire. It's not a bad idea.
This isn't to say Cooper is a puppet, but rather was set up with an enormous amount of resources behind her.
Yeah, it's like a TV show to some extent, But my thing is, I don't think that Brett Cooper is saying things she doesn't believe. That would be where I would have an issue with her. I think that she believes them, even if I disagree with the things that she may say.
To cultivate a brand around her videos.
People that are critical of the show or whatever will say like, oh, this must be a top-down show. Like, you're told what to say. You're just an arm of, Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring. But it's not the case at all. Like, I have total, veto power over, my show. I write the segments. I put it together. I have a very different brand than the other hosts.
The unique brand she has is...
I wouldn't doubt that. I mean, here's the thing. Again, I don't agree with Ben's politics, but he seems like a smart guy, and he's probably smart enough to know that what he wants is he wants a young person that's a conservative that can reach younger conservatives, and then from there let them kind of say their own piece. I mean, for how long were they letting Candace Owens say some wild shit? I don't think that they're trying to control their people, but it makes sense because, if Ben was like, no, you shouldn't do that, blah, 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 blah. Well, you don't understand what would you say, Gen Z, and I don't either, by the way, what Gen Z wants. It makes sense to have a Gen Z person to communicate these things because they know what Gen Z people want. So it makes more sense to have them do it. So yeah, I think he would give her that power. Obviously, if she was saying some wild, like left-leaning shit, he wouldn't hire her because this is a conservative network. But, if she has that conservative base, she has the look that they're looking for. She's a young, attractive girl that can relate to like younger people. And that's pretty much it.
Is where the performance comes in. It's not so much that she doesn't believe anything she says, but rather the way in which it's presented creates a manufactured authenticity. The look of the show carefully mimics the standard video vlogger or live streamer setup, as if we're visiting a friend in their private space to have a friendly chat about a topic.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's like pretending to be a YouTube live streamer kind of a thing, but it's really just like a manufactured set piece. So, okay, sure. Then it adds like a level of comfort for some people. For sure. Okay.
It's a style that countless other faces on YouTube and Twitch have cultivated and imitated for years. It's something audiences associate with an authentic person on the other hand, sharing their opinions about pretty much everything. Brett Cooper's headphones and giant microphone create the impression of a streamer in her bedroom. All of this is to create the feeling of someone who doesn't exist in the typical studio setup of most other commentators. Although in this case, she does, and this is all just cosplay. These are produced segments filmed on a set.
I mean, yeah, there might be a level of truth to that to try to like really curate that specific feeling to generate an audience. At the same time, that might just be where people feel comfortable recording nowadays. It's like, oh, this is the set piece that I like, and it makes me feel comfortable. It's a little bit more casual. It's like a business casual set piece. It's possible that that's a motivation as well.
That by someone hired to fill a role. It's the performance of an authentic experience. A big part of Brett Cooper's success early on was her use of YouTube Shorts. She very quickly racked up millions of views, and her most successful short has a staggering 40 million views.
I've got to get my shorts together, bro. I mean, I've been actually pumping, dude. I've been pumping. I just got a 10 million view TikTok, bro. You know, I just got I think I got like recently a 4 million view Instagram. I've been pumping, dude. I've had friends and family messaging me, like my wife's cousins, or like, "Hey, this is your husband on Facebook." You know, because Instagram is Facebook. So I've been pumping, baby. We've been on that pumper set. We're on that pump, little pump.
In addition to adopting that relatively new format on YouTube, she also commented on...
It would be crazy if like this is my blow up year because I actually put effort into YouTube short, like put effort into shorts and TikTok, and it's like, wow, I could have blew up whenever I wanted if I was just not so fucking lazy. But then again, maybe I needed to be lazy for a little bit to find myself.
Trending topics on social media, something that's still a standard in how she operates. So let's look at some of her more recent videos. One of the major topics she touches on is gender politics, often discussing dating and how young adults find their way in the world. Typically,
I mean, it kind of makes sense. A lot of people are looking for that kind of stuff. And it's also a little more casual. I've been talking about pretty casual stuff too, actually. What pops for me on TikTok, at least, is a lot of stuff about dating and relationships, and just kind of like real world stuff. Not like a lot of online. Like, I don't talk about the same things on my TikTok, and I kind of like that. You know, or excuse me, on my YouTube. On my YouTube, I feel like I do talk a lot about like very niche commentary stuff sometimes, and I don't dislike it. It's fun. But at the same time, it's like I enjoy talking about like, you know, more real world stuff. I feel like my TikTok is almost surprisingly more mature. I know that probably sounds so silly. Like, how could TikTok be more mature than the YouTube? But it's like surprisingly more mature because I'm talking about like regular shit, man. So I kind of like it.
She uses these stories to deliver a message of reverting to traditional gender norms or pushing other conservative talking points regarding sex and gender. In the video, Bumble Does Not Understand Women, she's reacting to the dating app, adding an optional feature that lets women use a pre-written opening message instead of having to write an original one for each match. One way in which Brett Cooper differs from other hosts at the Daily Wire is that she's often willing to speak with some kindness towards the people she's critiquing, at least some of the time. But these moments are brief and
nicer than me, bro.
Subservient to the less thoughtful right-wing talking points she often uses instead.
Like, if you actually wanted to rebrand and make the app better, you should let people on the app filter things like religion and politics for free, because according to your comment section, that is the #1 thing that people want. Apparently, there are multiple pay levels. You have to pay a premium every month if you even want to see what somebody's religion is and filter based on that, which is absurd.
Well, I mean, that's capitalism, no? Isn't that the... That's kind of what they're going for, I think. You know, if that's something that's super meaningful to people, then them locking that behind the paywall obviously makes them get more pay.
That's all well and good, but it's also only in the final minute.
It's weird seeing me in your Instagram. That's funny.
Of the video. Before that, it was 8 minutes of stuff like this.
Like, this is so classic. They are reverting to traditional norms, as we always do, but they can't say that, of course. They have to pretend like this is revolutionary so that they can keep going with their feminist nonsense.
Here's another example. This time from the video. Women believe bears are safer than men. This is responding to a social media trend where women expressed how they've been so traumatized by sexual assault that they would feel safer with a bear than a strange man.
Just to be clear, that's not what the trend is. So to be clear, the bear man conversation is not all these women were sexually assaulted or sexually abused and how now they would choose the bear. There is a level. This is the okay, I can get like a little crazy on this. Here's the thing. When it comes to these types of messages, not all women have experienced, I say most women haven't experienced horribly traumatic situations with men to the point where they would choose a bear. we live in an atmosphere, especially online, and not even just online, even offline, where I feel like we gravitate towards education for things through fear, right? So, for instance, when it comes to sexual health education for young people in, like, middle school and high school, instead of communicating to them the reality of, like, here's how you should engage in safe sex, and you shouldn't. You really shouldn't have sex, though, but if you do, you should wear a condom. You don't want to get STDs. That's that and the other thing. Historically, you've learned that, like, if you have sex, you're gonna have a baby, you're gonna get pregnant, you're gonna get fucked, you're gonna get AIDS, and it's a fear-based tactic, and it freaks people out. And then what happens, unfortunately, is when people realize that you don't instantly get AIDS when you have sex with a stranger, you start fucking strangers. We do the same thing when it comes to teaching about young women, about men, right? Because men can be disgusting. Men can be creepy. Men can be sexual predators and aggressors, and they tend to be so at higher rates than women. And so when you have your father teaching your daughter about boys, you're always, the dad is like, no, don't do that. These boys are bad, blah, 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 because he knows better. And that's kind of how the education goes online. So we do have a mixture of women having bad experiences with men, but we also have this fear tactic culture, and it's lazy education culture, where people are doing it. And it's a lot of it's men. Offline, it's all men. It's always dads telling their daughters to stay away from fucking men because they have, they're poorly intentioned and, ABCDXYZ. So it's not just, I don't want to give every single person who makes the bear versus man argument in favor of the bear. We shouldn't over-validate those feelings, because not all of them are coming from a place of trauma. I'd argue most of them are coming from a place of just, like, that being really a victim of, like, the fear-mongering bullshit. So I just wanted to be accurate about that.
It was meant to illustrate a very real fear experienced by women, and Brett Cooper comes very close to addressing that point in the video.
But then also for guys, for dudes out there, if you're a dude out there, I would just try to be more sensitive to women, be more sensitive of your impact on the world. But, like, obviously you're silly if you chose a fucking bear over a man.
Violence is sadly very prevalent in our society, and it's heartbreaking to see that so many women genuinely believe that a bear would be safer.
Coming in only halfway through the video, this would seem to set it up for a very interesting and nuanced conversation about how women express their discomfort, and perhaps how men can do a better job of picking up on that. But instead we get,
when humans have been asked what species should prevail on Earth, they don't even say their own kind.
Instead of discussing the traumatic impact of sexual violence and how it was highlighted by this trend on social media, this video is actually about how people are too anti-human.
You can care for the Earth that feeds us and keeps us alive.
Anti-human? Well, I never got that thought out of that, but okay.
And breathing and healthy without hating yourself and calling for your own extinction.
I think women just want
Did she really make that point? That's just a stupid point. Why would she make that point? I don't think anybody ever thought that this had anything to do with being anti-human. What the fuck?
And to stop sexually assaulting them. How did we end up talking about people leading humanity to self?
Well, that'll work, guys. Just tell rapists to stop rape. Then they go, oh, you didn't want it? Well, shit.
Extinction. There's
if only I had known.
A web of talking points connecting these narratives together, but the leaps in logic she makes creates commentary that isn't informative. It's just a jumbled mess. It's very hard to understand what people are getting.
I don't know. Maybe, she might actually feel that way. To me, it kind of reads as she's looking... I don't even know how to communicate this. Like I said, if you're a young man, just try to be more aware of, like, your presence around women. You're obviously stronger and more and better than girls, so you have to be, you have to keep that mentality going. Just kidding. For this whole, like, I think this is a step away from the priority being humanity, I wonder if she's just trying to have some kind of a unique point. I really don't understand that point.
From these videos sometimes, but when you read the comments under them, a message is getting through. And in this one video about women and bears, we can see an overriding message about how women, or Generation Z, just aren't that bright. Here are some examples of highly upvoted comments under this video. I can't bear the stupidity of this generation.
That's so funny.
Anymore.
That's someone's dad.
The same women who say they're safe around bears will run to the safety of a man as soon as an actual bear shows up. If a lady
probably, I guess,
wants to pick a bear to hang out with in the forest over a man, I don't see the issue. She wants to go out in a very unique, terrifying, and excruciatingly painful way and feed the wildlife in the process.
I think that the reason that women choose bears over men is because they're trying to find the perfect temperature of porridge. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Unless it's a bear cub, but the mama bear is probably nearby, so you're probably checking out either way. Oh well, do what you do, boo. Brett Cooper's
That scared me.
videos are often designed to badmouth people in her gender and her generation. That's kind of the point of her commentary. Although she doesn't go as hard as some other commentators, it's very much
Oh, are you saying she's a pick-me Gen Zer, whatever generation she's in? That's okay.
a running theme, and is very consistent with a lot of messaging in the conservative space. In that sense, she is advocating for her ideals in that it lines up with a very specific conservative worldview, apparently unaware or willing to ignore that those ideals happen to dump all over women in Generation Z, often on spurious terms.
Based alert.
And since she's joining in on that kind of mockery, she can safely consider herself one of the good ones, even if it means selling out other women and girls who are just like her.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the question is do you think that she's being honest with her commentary? And that would be really what it boils down to.
The video that best encapsulates what I mean is they took the boy out of Boy Scouts, where we
Good. I'm a legitimate Eagle Scout and an Order of the Arrow Brotherhood member. Good. First of all, unfortunately, scouting has gotten a little lame, okay? You know, back when I was in scouting, there was a lot of dudes that did sports and this and that, and I wasn't one of them. But now it's like a lot of people who are generally considered more like rejectish. And that's not like fair because the Boy Scouts taught me a lot. You know, I had a Vietnam veteran scoutmaster and assistant scoutmaster that took us on campouts every month and like taught us how to be like fucking men. You know, like real shit. But now, like, yeah, it's gotten a little, it seems like it's only the people who may not necessarily feel as comfortable in doing a sport that does the Boy Scouts, but it teaches you a lot of responsibility. You know, for me, I was a very behavioral kid with like, you know, ADHD, and it helped me engage in like different, you know, behavioral methods to get my shit together. But adding girls, there's nothing wrong with it. It keeps the Boy Scouts alive. I think it's a great institution. And when I was 13, I always wanted to touch a girl's boobs. So, you know what I mean? You know, get some girls in the troop. But I don't think you're allowed to mix boys and girls in the same troop. That's my understanding. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think it's an issue. You know, there are some girls who want to have a more serious like experience. The Girl Scouts doesn't give you that camping experience. But frankly, you should let boys in the Girl Scouts. Let the boys get like a, you know, I don't know, whatever experience that is. Selling cookies. Sure, you know, whatever, if you want to do. I mean, that's if you want to. I don't know, there's nothing wrong with being gay. Like, I don't know, do your thing.
you see Brett Cooper upset that the Boy Scouts of America are changing their name to Scouting America.
When I was a kid, I desperately wanted to be a Boy Scout. Everything they did sounded so much fun. You know, they would come over the camping trips. I just like desperately wanted to go. But of
Well, it sounds like maybe they should have opened you up for the Boy Scouts.
course, because I was a girl, joining the Boy Scouts was not an option, obviously.
Oh, that's stupid. You should be able to do that stuff.
Like, duh. My mom was like, suck it up, babe. There's nothing you can do.
There's something really sad about this.
Yeah, there is something sad about that. Boy, I'm an Eagle Scout. Scouting was really fun. I literally enjoyed going camping. Why should women be denied the opportunity to go camping and hunting and learning to use guns and all that? You know what I mean? Like, let boys in the Girl Scouts, let girls in the Boy Scouts. And like I said, you know, I would have been ecstatic as a 13-year-old boy because I would have been closer to boobs, you know? Fuck it.
A little girl just like Brett Cooper now has an opportunity that she didn't and desperately wanted, and Cooper seems to think this is a bad thing.
This will be a simple but very important evolution as we seek to ensure that everyone feels welcome in scouting. Everyone did feel welcome. That's why.
Well, they didn't. I mean, that's the thing. The real reason they're doing it is because scouting is dying. You know, and you want to know what? I think that scouting is dying because they don't let anybody say they're in the Boy Scouts in parodies. I feel like I watched a movie, Scouting, like the Scouts Survival Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, and they were so roundabout about the Boy Scouts. Like, I wish they would have just called it the Boy Scouts. Maybe it would have made people want to be part of the Boy Scouts, and that's like a historical trend of, you know, not actually calling scouting in some media Boy Scouts.
This is so ridiculous. There was Boy and Girl Scouts.
Everyone
they weren't the same though.
felt welcome, except
I mean, there's like the Venture Scouts or some shit. There's like, but whatever.
literally her, who was not allowed to do the cool stuff Boy Scouts did because she was a girl and the Girl Scouts didn't offer the same activities. It seems needlessly harsh telling other little girls to suck it up when the very easy solution of letting girls join the Scouts has existed for several years now.
Yeah.
The principle
I would just say, like I said, boys should be able to join the Girl Scouts then.
supposedly being argued for here is that boys and girls need spaces exclusive to one another.
Male camaraderie and community is vital.
I don't disagree with the concept that it's good for boys and girls to be able to engage in communities that are exclusive to boys and girls or more leaning towards boys and girls. But I don't think that you have to manufacture that with the Scouts. That can, you know how that usually happens with friendship. Let your kids pick their friends, and boys will typically pick boys as their friends, and girls will typically pick girls, and gay guys will typically pick girls, and girls will typically pick gay guys, and they'll secretly have a crush on their gay friend and want to actually marry them and be with them, and then they'll get older and realize what gay is, and then they realize that they somehow surround themselves with only gay male friends, and they're very confused, and then they start doing theater, and then they do their shows into their 30s. Typical female experience.
They need to play together. They need to learn together. They need to fight together. They need to push themselves away from girls. Just like girls need spaces to grow together away from men. That is
like I said, you just choose your friends.
important.
This supposed principle really just boils down to administering strict gender roles into children. Camping, jamborees, paddling, and other outdoor activities aren't inherently gendered. But
What the hell?
presenting these as the domain of boys is just a way to exclude
It is something that boys typically will gravitate towards, but again, some girls want to do it.
girls. Girls like Brett Cooper. When getting into a bit of the history of the Boy Scouts, this video goes in a very weird direction though, when we see Brett Cooper wax nostalgically about what appears to be the introduction to the first Boy Scouts field guide.
This, it will be seen, is a reproduction of the condition that ended in the fall of Rome. In her days of growth, every man was a soldier. In the end, a few great gladiators were in the arena, to be watched and applauded by the millions who personally knew nothing at all of fighting or heroism. Degeneracy is the word.
For anyone familiar with far-right dog whistles, the fall of Rome and the term degeneracy are very big ones.
Well, yeah, a lot of times it'll allude to like gay people, LGBTQ people. Like, there's degeneracy going on here. That was the fall of the. It's like, then just stop it. Okay? There's nobody gayer than a super fucking devout right-wing person because they're desperately trying to run away from their own homosexuality. And so they decide to try to legislate against that through religion.
And to hammer it home, she gives us the classic far-right meme.
I genuinely do not think that I have seen a better example of that maxim, that hard times create strong men create good times create weak
hard men create me also hard.
men, weak men create hard times, and then again, hard times create strong men.
This commentary, especially in regard to Rome, is deeply silly. An article by historian Brett Devereaux provides context when he wrote, Western cultural memory fixes on the Gauls, Vandals, and Huns who broke the Roman frontier, but it is quick to forget the rather long list of non-state peoples broken by the Romans. The Samnites, Cimbri, Teutons, Ambrones, Helvetians, Ubronis.
I don't even know what you're saying. You say jabroni? I only know that from The Rock.
Arveni, Celtiberians, Lusitanians, Pannones, Dalmatae, Catuvillani, Iceni.
I think this guy's casting a spell on me. He's casting a fucking spell on me right now.
Marcomanni, Quadi, Iazyges, and all the other hard people crushed under the
hard.
Romans do not become household names. Most successful large states in history can boast similar butcher's bills. On closer inspection, hard times creating strong men turns out to be a child's version of history, simplistic and unhelpful. The invincible barbarian or insurgent or terrorist was always just a mirage, a trap in strategic thinking.
Well, it's also interesting because, like, there is a general truth. Like, difficult times will breed, like, you know, stronger individuals because you have to rise to that stress. But it's so funny because the people who consider themselves the strongest in, like, this current generation, there would be considered, like, weak than older generations because we have so much technology existing and making our lives just tremendously easier, you know? Like, I agree that we need to maintain a certain amount of productive stress onto young people. Like, I'm not a big fan of participation trophies because I think that removes, like, productive stress. You need the productive stress of, like, losing and knowing that somebody else beat you, and that's okay. And you need to be taught to, like, overcome, and then, you know, that's a productive thing. You need to have as much stress as you can handle and overcome and adapt to. But, you know, they complain about everything. It's not like they're just like, hey, participation trophy things are kind of like stupid. We shouldn't really engage with that. We should teach people productive stress. It's like having a meltdown when, like, your underpaid Starbucks worker is asking for a more livable wage after somebody pays $7 for a fucking, you know, 10-ounce drink. And it's like, oh, why do you deserve any of that money? Why not? Why do you deserve to live? You know, there are apartments by me that would cost like over $3,000 a month for a 3-bed, like, or I think it's a 2-bedroom or something. It's just like, or $4,000 a month. It's like, what the fuck? That's insane.
Poor reading of history has been used throughout the years and in recent history by right-wing figures trying to enforce strict gender roles and a more authoritarian style of government that fashioned young men into soldiers rather than simply letting them choose how they wanted to grow up in society. But even worse than misreading history, we also have an example of Brett Cooper navigating gender topics and getting science completely wrong in the video Stop Playing Politics with the Pill, in
What's that? The birth control pill?
which she fearmongers about birth control pills.
I think women like taking birth control, right? Doesn't it kind of help regulate your period and your hormone cycles?
I suggest checking out Dr. Danielle Jones's video response to hear what an actual doctor has to say about this subject.
Nothing in that video was helpful or beneficial. It was fear-mongering.
All
You give me a breakdown. I'm not going to watch two women talk. What is this? The Bechtel test? No, thank you.
this light and not so light commentary on gender issues is not informed by facts or even decent research. Rather, it's a strict adherence to ideology and finding whatever little bits and pieces of evidence support it. It does raise the question that when she gets lost in a topic, going from talking about bears to the extinction of humanity, or argues against something that seems like she should naturally support.
Well, it sounds almost like a little crazy conspiracy-esque. Maybe conservatives like a little bit of conspiracy conversation. Yeah.
Support, like wanting to let young girls into scouting so they can enjoy all the activities she wanted to do as a child. It raises the very obvious question of, is this how she really feels? Ultimately, it doesn't really matter, though.
I mean, that is a good question, because it seems so silly for her to feel some of these different ways. But, you know, as a content creator, I can understand the encapsulation of audience capture. So I kind of get it. I mean, Brett Cooper blew up very quickly. She got stardom very quickly, and she might be trying to be safe. You know, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it happens. You know, I think I've and there's always going to be a level of audience capture. Like, I'll typically try to make content that I know people enjoy, but it's not. I don't say things I don't mean. Right? But Brett Cooper might be sometimes confronted with a topic that maybe she doesn't believe in, but she wants to say what she thinks people want to hear because that's her golden goose. I wouldn't doubt it. It's totally possible. But again, I don't really watch her enough to know. But that whole rant about man versus bear boiling down to prioritizing other species over humans or whatever seems a little bit silly, you know. But then again, some people will feel bad for dogs, but not when people die. So maybe she's got a point there.
In some way, shape, or form, she probably does believe what she's saying, but her role in all this...
Probably got the pill is like testosterone for females, brings them to like a 13-year-old boy's level of tests. What? What the hell does that... What are you saying? I don't even know what you mean.
And what she truly believes doesn't matter as much as what she's putting out into the world. And that's why the aesthetics become so important. Presenting her as an authentic, genuine person creates the impression that these videos are expressing a form of genuine politics.
You think Brett Cooper's a lesbian? She gives me lesbian vibes. Not in a bad way. I'm just curious.
In the video, "We're Back, Baby," Brett Cooper celebrates various conservative wins within the culture.
All
in
right.
this instance, frat boys protecting American flags and diversity, equity, and inclusion programs being scaled back.
I wish the frat boys would, you know, maybe protect the women from getting raped by their frat brothers more. That would be more, you know, or they could protect the girls' drinks. That might be pretty good. But hey, what do I know?
Now, in the same vein, which is just so epic, we are seeing even more change.
Because I said the pill's good for girls, thought you'd ask more about that. I don't know what you meant by that. It gives you the 13-year-old boy level of test. I don't even know what that means. Like, I don't know if that's even true, for one. And number two, if you have like an adult 20-year-old woman taking the birth control, I don't know what the comparison is. Like, maybe a 20-year-old girl is supposed to have the test levels of a 13-year-old boy. I don't really know what I don't quite understand your point. You just kind of said some information that doesn't make sense to me.
Change and resistance across the country, specifically from these frat boys.
Other wins include Target not having a pride display this year, and lots of news on social media posts. As Gen Z faces climate change, inflation, and a housing crisis, the conservative vision of winning means getting some dunks on social media. It's hard to imagine someone polling for this, but looking at the numbers, some people clearly do. Here's one comment.
Thank you so much for the 7-month small gut from Sally, right? Seylle. Never forget, Papa, the Leviathans are gooning. I have not forgotten. We're waiting for them to goon harder. That's how it shuts down the period, male hormones. It's just an offhand comment about... Yeah, but like, the birth control doesn't shut off your period. It regulates it. Like, you go through hormone cycles, and then like when you go on the pills, you'll take like a placebo pill for a week, and then it gives you your period again. So it's regulating your hormones by giving you like a pill, and then it has you get your period. Like, girls are supposed to have testosterone, and like I said, like, you saying that it gives you girls the same test as a 13-year-old boy, I don't even know if that, first of all, I can't verify if that's true. Second of all, does that mean that it's bad? If you're a 25-year-old woman, maybe you're supposed to have the testosterone of a 13-year-old boy. I don't know. So what you're saying isn't inherently bad. It's just an information that's unverifiable. I don't see how it, I mean, it also regulates your hormones, which is something that women can struggle with. It regulates your period, which some women can struggle with. It can help you with like acne and a bunch of other stuff. So that's all I'm saying.
I'm in high school in Tien, and I got a lot of hope when some random kids started handing out American flags to people in the hallway.
Woo.
What Brett Cooper is presenting here is a counterfeit for having real politics, which is what this comment so perfectly illustrates. I hate to break it to anyone who loves flags, but they're fabric and don't.
I like flags. I like the concept of America, and I wish that we had a more American identity as our priority. And, you know, I think it would help us with a lot of togetherness and merging of our values and getting on the same page. It's good to unify under something. And a lot of times we're all unifying under like all their smaller identities, you know, like race and gender and whatnot. And I think it would be good if we could try to unify over something a little bigger and more meaningful, which is like America. I'm not saying we shouldn't advocate for issues of other groups. I'm just saying it would be cool if people cared more about America. But I mean, the solution to that would be if America worked for everybody the same way it worked for me, right? I mean, I love America. I grew up loving America. I'm an Eagle Scout, and America works well for me. I do well. So it's easy for me to love America. So I can understand why maybe you don't, as a dirty non-American. No, as an American who maybe doesn't do particularly as well. But it's not just a piece of fabric. That's silly. You know, you probably wouldn't say that about a pride flag. It's a little more meaningful than that. It's an identity. It's a representation. So
would have any intrinsic value. They're symbols, and they don't always mean the same things to different people. And the emphasis on the flag reflects a type of politics that ignores the material realities people live with and emphasizes instead symbols that make them feel good but may not necessarily reflect the reality in which we all share.
I think that everybody engages with like that. You know, there are people that are conservatives when it comes to the American flag or their gay pride MAGA hat. And then there are progressives who identify with like the LGBTQ flag, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, thank you so much for the small gut from Silver Eagle.
This comment, I suspect.
Hey, I had ovarian cancer, and I could tell you that women don't have the same amount of testosterone as a 13-year-old boy. I have the PCOS, which increased my testosterone to about a 70-year-old man. I feel like 70-year-old men don't have very high testosterone, do they? But I feel you on that. High test. Well, at least you could work out and make some gains on that. I'm just kidding. My wife has PCOS, so I understand it's a pain in the ass.
Is alluding to the frat boy story I mentioned a little bit earlier. As a bit of a quick recap, the story of the frat boys at UNC Chapel Hill who surrounded the American flag isn't the brave act of courage that Brett Cooper presented it as. Rather, it's them standing as a bulwark against a valid form of protest.
I don't understand what that means. I don't know the situation, but what do you mean? Like if somebody else is protesting you and they're protesting, they're just counter-protesting. Who cares?
In the day, pro-Palestinian demonstrators had taken down the American flag and replaced it with a Palestinian one to protest their university's financial ties to Israel in light of the violence in Gaza.
Okay. And their counter-protest against that is perfectly valid too.
When the Palestinian flag was taken down by the police and replaced by the American one, the demonstrators tried to put it back, only to be met by the frat boys who formed a barrier around the flagpole.
Okay. What's the problem with that?
Frat boys were effectively silencing a form of protest, which...
The frat boys were engaging in their own form of protest. Like, yeah, you know, protest Israel-Palestine if that's what you want to do, on whichever side you want. You know, you guys know my perspective is I believe Israel has the right to exist, but it would be nice that if there was a reasonable peace solution between the two and a two-state solution. That would be nice, but I generally support Israel because I agree with their values more, which is more freedom to men, women, children, LGBTQ people, and workers in their country, and that's something that I value quite a lot. But if they're protesting whatever financial ties to Israel, and they took down the American flag, the police went and they put back up the American flag, and these frat boys want to stop them from removing it again, that is a counter-protest. You know, it's perfectly fine. This person obviously is more leaning towards Palestine. That's fine. But like, you can't decide that this counter protest of maintaining the American flag there is not also protesting. It is protesting. You know, if you believe these young people believe so heavily and so strongly about Palestine, what's to say that they don't about either Israel or their own country? So it's not really that big of a deal.
Is an important part of free expression, all to
Okay, they have their own freedom of expression too.
defend a symbol of that expression.
Okay, this is like, you look silly doing this because you're like, oh, they're just trying to defend some symbol of expression. Is the Palestinian flag not a symbol of their expression? Like, where do you? This is the first time I've seen something from this Jose guy that was like actually, engaged in this level of cognitive dissonance. This guy's usually pretty smart, but like, yeah, let them protest.
In this case, a symbol of freedom becomes more important than the actual freedom. And
no, it doesn't.
is then celebrated because it supports a particular type of right-wing politics. And so these boys became heroes who are given $500,000 to have a wild party, not
Nice.
because of them engaging in some kind of brave political action, but because they served as useful props to demonize a group of protesters the right would like silence.
Or maybe they agree more with America and Israel.
Here's a comment from one of the frat boys
But
named
okay.
Alex Jones. Not to be confused
Okay.
with the conspiracy theory radio host. It's just a coincidence that they have the same name. For me, protecting the flag was not about taking a stance within the ongoing Israel-Palestine discourse. I recognize the pain and suffering experienced by both sides of that conflict, but my decision yesterday to protect the flag of the United States was not about any other nation. It was simply about the importance of our country and the values we believe in.
Yeah, that makes sense. There are this person feels that there are people protesting Israel and Palestine in a way that takes away from the freedoms that you're able to express in America. Okay, like that's important. That symbol is important to him. Okay.
Not every frat boy had such a hollow reason, though, and I will give more credit to the frat boys who only joined in because they wanted to support Israel, because that's a lot closer to a genuine expression of political activism. Although in this
That is a genuine expression of why is it just closer?
case, their activism is support for an ongoing genocide.
Okay. Well, I'm not even going to get into this.
But to the other frat boys who are talking about laying their lives down for a flag and what it represents, they are silencing a demonstration for a literal symbol of allowing that protest to happen.
They are expressing the freedoms that they're allowed to express in their country. I don't know what you're talking. Okay, I got to stop reiterating what I'm saying.
This is what I mean by counterfeit politics that Brett Cooper is endorsing, where symbolic gestures matter more than material actions, at least when the symbolism is conservative. And it's a
Okay.
shame that she's been so successful in reaching young people with a message that saluting the flag matters more than upholding the ideals it supposedly represents. This isn't to say everyone is falling for this. Other creators on YouTube, including Gabby Bell, have great videos looking at Brett Cooper's work that reveals
She looks exactly like Ben Shapiro.
True.
I think she looks
Yeah, when I put Ben Shapiro into like a deep fake machine, and I was like, "Girl, Ben Shapiro, 25 years old." Brett Cooper came up. It was incredible.
more like Ben Shapiro than Ben Shapiro's sister looks like Ben
Ooh.
Shapiro.
Brett Cooper's
Got
videos
'em.
have this highly produced vibe that attempts to camouflage her in this React space, but she hopelessly gives away the game with its boomer-esque splicing of movie and TV clips. Some of these cutaways are references that are so old I can't imagine she has the faintest clue what they are.
Benny Blanco is not a quad six, and he has Selena Gomez wrapped around his pinky finger.
That was a cutaway to The Dukes of Hazzard, a show that ran from 1979 to 1985, ending 16 years before Brett Cooper was even born. This sort of reference is
Yeah, that was popular when I was a kid, and I didn't really watch it. I didn't get it.
fitting in that Brett Cooper's commentary often sounds like it's coming out of your grandpa's mouth, but I suspect any youths who recognize the Duke boys are probably only understanding that because their dad or grandpa sat them down and made them watch a couple of episodes.
I guess.
Another way these videos feel very artificial is when we get to the ad reads. Brett Cooper slides into them seamlessly.
We were all
Isn't that kind of the grind? You gotta plug your ads, baby. Some people I don't get any advertisements, of course, but that's life. But like, isn't that part of the deal?
sharing the same problems and grievances. We are all fighting this mind virus together. And if you're fighting your own virus, you might need Jace Medical.
This is
It's like, whatever.
very goofy and completely unnatural, and these
Yeah, but it's an ad read. Who cares? I don't understand.
ad reads take up so much time in each video. The example I showed you ran for a minute in a video that was only 7 minutes and 21 seconds long.
Hey, they're getting that bag, baby.
That's close to 14% of the video's runtime devoted to an ad. Other videos aren't quite so bad, but still give up a lot of runtime to advertise these products, often close to 10% of a video.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about that. It's ad reads. It's how people make their money so they can make their content. Again, my issue would be like if she's lying about her content. She doesn't actually believe the way that she expresses. But, which might be true, but like her ad reads being long, I don't give a shit about that. It means literally nothing to me.
These kinds of ads are pretty common on YouTube, so Brett Cooper participating in them isn't that strange, but coming
It's not strange at all, actually, to be real. But
from such a big business production, they hit differently. This
Why?
isn't Brett Cooper who has taken up video blogging as a personal project, who's found a way to make some extra money. She's someone who was hired to fill a role, and part of that job includes reading ads.
I'm really, as the video goes on, the criticisms seem to get more and more pedantic. I'm not understanding the difference. Like, you don't feel that I don't understand. Why does it matter that she's part of like an organization? Well, she doesn't work for herself, so I don't care. Like, who gives a shit? They have to make money to survive. You could dislike them and their politics and whatever, but it just seems like it's a silly criticism.
She's using the guise of an amateur when she's actually a professional.
I don't think that she's using the guise of an amateur. She might be putting on part of the aesthetic appeal might be to come off as a more organic Twitch streamer. That part you might be right about. but that doesn't mean that she's pretending to be an amateur. I don't think anybody's ever gone, wow, Brett Cooper's pretending to be an amateur. I don't even know what you're talking about.
And usually the appeal of these ads is that they come from an amateur who is following a passion project. And
you know what? What's interesting? I don't like any ads, and there's no appeal to ads. They annoy the shit out of me. But I understand that the content creator needs to make money, so like I get it. What are you talking about?
Is therefore considered more trustworthy rather than some kind of celebrity who's just getting a paycheck.
Sorry, excuse me. You think that I would trust the smaller person taking the advertisement because they're going to be more trustworthy? Doubtful. Like, there's these small YouTubers that are just like, oh my god, somebody gave me an ad read, I'll do it. I don't really trust any ad reads. Or like, I'm always like, yeah, I'm skeptical about all of them. Of course, because it's a fucking ad read. I don't know what the hell they're, you know what I mean? Like, I question whether anybody's actually looked at their shit. You know, it would take a very particular type of content creator for me to be like, oh, I trust that this person actually enjoys this particular product if they engage with it. But okay.
To endorse a product they may or may not believe in. There's a line on the Daily Wire About page that reads, "We're building the future you want to see." And when they speak to their audience, they often use grandiose terms about how they're going to change the culture and take it back from the left.
That probably resonates with a lot of the conservatives there.
You'll also hear folks from the Daily Wire make reference to Andrew Breitbart's famous saying that politics is downstream from culture. It's important to remember that the Daily Wire is presenting itself as a political project, spreading conservative values. One of the major differences between the Daily Wire and other conservative advocacy groups is that the Daily Wire is run as a for-profit business. As such, it's far more aggressive with its advertising and other monetization practices, and its conservative branding is often a means for making a quick profit. Some examples are the anti-woke chocolate bars and razors of dubious quality.
Yeah, I mean, they were just jumping onto a trend of like the Hershey thing, so they made like she-her chocolate bars or something like that. Like, it was stupid. But it's all just like a business tactic to try to like pull in money, and they were really expensive, and only an idiot would buy that. But
they're sold to people as if buying a chocolate bar is somehow political activism. It's very similar to the counterfeit.
Well, again, it was in response to something.
Politics we saw Brett Cooper pushing in her videos, cynically telling people they can buy their way to a better world, or that the best way to celebrate free speech is to honor a flag, then respect the voices of protesters.
Okay, this video's lost me like completely in the second half, but okay.
In the article, Constructing Authenticity, Social Media Influencers and the Shaping of Online Identity by Maureen Eben and Elizabeth Bull, the authors describe the complementary strategies of transparent authenticity and passionate authenticity. This is pairing advertisements that are transparently presented with regular media that include an authentic persona. They write in their article, when used in tandem, the two strategies balance the tensions between the influencer's persona as a seller and the influencer's persona as human, relatable, and authentic. Viewed through this lens, Brett Cooper's success makes some sense. Although she is stylistically inauthentic, her personality seems to be informed, at least in part, by what she actually feels. It's not so much she's a fraud, but rather a willing participant in a business strategy that is using the constructed influencer persona and conservative branding to turn a profit.
Okay, I mean, again, like, does the profit doesn't matter. It would be the dishonesty of the way you got to the profit. I mean, if Daily Wire believes in what they're saying, I mean, like, who cares? I mean, they need to make money to be an organization. If you don't think that they should exist because they're bad, that's fine. But I'm not understanding. Like, I don't look at, like, I engage with Daily Wire stuff enough, and I disagree with like a lot of their people, all of them really. Like, but I like the whole Hershey bar thing. I know what you're referring to. It wasn't really that crazy. It was just like a stupid little gimmick because of like they were like, oh, the woke chocolate bars because they're gonna have inclusiveness or something stupid in chocolate bars. I didn't give a shit. It's just like a silly little business tactic to like jump onto a trend briefly. I don't even know if they sell the bars anymore, if that was just something brief for the fucking attention grabbing.
While I was researching this video, I noticed something interesting. When I typed authenticity into the search bar on YouTube, I got a lot of psychology videos on how people can become their authentic selves.
Ooh.
When I did the same thing at my local library, I instead got a bunch of books on marketing. It reflected the strange impact the word authenticity has had on our modern day, and how a personal journey for authenticity is used by companies to make money. In the book, Authenticity, Building a Brand in an Insincere Age by Mark Toft, Jay Sunny, and Rich Taylor, one line leapt out at me. We want to attract people who need and respond to the truth and purpose of our company and our products and services. The evolution of that sentence to associate truth and purpose with products and services through the medium of our company is really wild to me. The purpose of any company, at the end of the day, is to make money.
Okay.
This exercise in branding is about associating intangible qualities to these products and services to increase their values in the mind of a consumer. I probably don't need to tell many of you that a shoe company pledging to fight racism isn't doing that to be altruistic.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, I mean, there's probably some people in the company that don't like racism, and they're like, hey, what if we do a cause for this? You know, my mom worked for White Castle for a very long time, and they did like Autism Speaks and muscular dystrophy, especially. and she really felt passionate about it. Obviously, it was like a tactic for White Castle to like look better because they were donating to a well-meaning charity. But my mother was in charge of like, you know, pretty much organizing the interaction between the two, and she loved it and gave her a lot of meaning. So I'm just saying, and it's not every instance where some kind of it's you know, just because there's a business move doesn't mean that there's not also people behind the creating that move like caring, right? So,
and that it's a means to add value into the minds of potential customers and translate to more sales in the future. But it's worth repeating that fact because it works, or at least companies believe it works. It's presented as authenticity, but with the brief mention of Target earlier and its dropping of pride displays, these values can be jettisoned at a threat to the company's bottom line. The Daily Wire is not an exception to this marketing strategy. It's how they can opine about the supposed degeneracy of Hollywood while working with a production company that ignored one of its producers' long history of being a sexual predator.
who the fuck was that? Ben Shapiro? Who's the sexual predator? I'm so confused.
These conservative values meant to signify the company's authenticity.
Wait, I'm so confused. Who's the sexual predator? Is this like fucking Harvey Weinstein? What the hell?
Become more flexible when it's time to make some money. To join the Daily Wire seems less like an authentic career path and more like joining a business that claims to have conservative values.
Why? What makes them not have conservative values?
And to an extent, I'm sure many of the people working there do have those values.
Probably all of them. Yeah. What the fuck?
But a quick look at the Glassdoor reviews for the Daily Wire reveal many former staffers who were attracted by the mission and were then chewed up by the demanding work hours and capricious leadership that uses the genuine desire these people have to help a conservative movement to exploit them as workers.
Sounds conservative to me.
To give you a better sense of that, here are a couple of the reviews. Must sell soul. Pros. At first, it's cool. You're excited. Got your dream job sticking it to the leftist, soy-riddled, emasculated man. Famous people walk by. Nice. You made it. Cons. They blacked out the windows so you can't tell what time it is. They make it very clear they don't care about your work-life balance. They said it in a town hall, which more so resembles a Hunger Games announcement. Despite horrible things happening to people who work there because they had none. Bigwig owns a Tesla and gets in like Batman but dresses as if gay. It's hilarious.
Hey, gotta love gay Batman, baby.
They rail against the left as if they're any better. They ignore the real issues in favor of making fun of sad little leftists with half-brains.
Well, I mean, yeah, like they're mostly just like a culture movement, right? I mean, that's a reasonable criticism. It seems like most of them focus on like ridiculous culture bullshit than actual issues going on, I guess. But I guess we all kind of do the same thing, right? I mean, us whinging about Brett Cooper is probably not the most valid use of our time. So
you start there, you're high on making a difference, but if you're not an idiot, you quickly realize the only difference you're really making is dividing neighbors, spreading hate. Real godly of y'all. If you have a real conscience, you will not like this place.
Well, didn't that guy join so that he can own the libs? And then he's like, oh, they just have spread hate. Like, yeah, isn't that what you signed up for? I don't understand.
Must be willing to sell soul to conservative devil. Of the 15 or so reviews, there are a few positive ones, although they strangely all seem to come at around October of 2022. There's a review here that sheds some light on why that is.
I mean, in general, I imagine that like when you do leave reviews for plays, like I remember my mother told me this, right? She was like a White Castle person. She was pretty big up in the company. She was like an area supervisor. She was an area supervisor. She wasn't like one. When you have negative feedback, it's usually just more powerful than positive feedback. So for like every one negative interaction, like 11 people hear about it, whereas like every one positive interaction, like 6 people hear about it, right? Like it's just not, you know, there makes sense that there would be a more vocal in like, you know, negative expression. I'll have that in some videos. I'll have like a good like ratio, but I'll have a lot of negative comments because people express themselves, you know, and they express themselves more vocally when they dislike something. I mean, that's why people's like For You pages are full of outrage, because it's more meaningful to them. People like to feel nice, but then they also get off to feeling not nice. And I think we've all been in situations where we've been angry and like we don't want to be not angry anymore. Like we want to stay angry for a little bit. It makes us feel good. Like, I want to be angry right now, you know?
You have been warned. Pros, you get to work with some really smart people. Plus having the DW on your resume is like gold in conservative circles. You also get to make a real difference in the culture wars. #SBG for life. Cons. It's an incredibly toxic work environment. Notice how all the reviews on this site were negative up until recently, when there was a big influx of positive reviews, gushing with praise for the DW. LMAO. They are so transparent. The constant negative reviews were hurting recruitment, so they astroturfed a bunch of positive reviews to try to hide the truth. And the truth is, I don't know of anyone at the Daily Wire who is happy. The firings and the resignations have reached crisis levels. Everyone has at least one eye on the door. I would never want...
Interesting. I mean, if this is true, that's quite telling of the negative experience there.
Anyone I care about to work here. Terrible, unethical company. Pros. There is no pros to working at this company. It is built on lies.
Okay.
Cons. Many cons. The founder of this company is truly a terrible human being and has created an organization based on lies and unethical behavior. The company is so disorganized and has no clear direction or philosophy. Its mission is to spread lies, sadly. There is also a lack of transparency. A company full of narcissists.
It's interesting because it's like when it comes to the criticisms of them selling lies and this and other thing, my thought is like, what did you not know going in that you learned coming out? I feel like when you're going into this company, you would know like they're conservative and they have a particular agenda that they're going to push, whether that's negative and toxic, or if that's just kind of like that's their perspective and they're going to push that perspective. I don't really understand like what magical thing did you learn while working there? What did you go like, wow, I just went the wrong way like a fucking fat idiot, you know?
Advice to management. It's 2022. This company needs to be shut down already. No real values. The Daily Wire seems like a miserable place to work. And many of these reviews are clearly not from people on the left, but rather conservatives who went in there hoping to make a difference, only to find themselves exploited by their employer.
Maybe. Or maybe it's like I got stuck in that. Maybe it's like spam from people. I don't know. It just seems like some of the criticisms are like, oh, I hate the libs. These guys are dishonest. What's dishonest? I guess I don't really get it. I would have expected, like, the criticisms are like, oh, it's like run like a fucking, it's run like a sweatshop. That does make sense to me. But the other ones of like, where's the dishonesty? What does that mean?
Using their passion for political change to extract as much labor out of them as possible. While it's doubtful I agree with the politics of any of these people, I still think as workers, they are deserving of some level of respect and good treatment by their employers. Whether or not that's living up to their conservative values, you can judge for yourselves. But at the very least, the people leaving angry reviews seem to think that
I'm gonna go work for Daily Wire for a month, and I'll see what's going on. Okay.
These values weren't their conservative values. But where does any of that leave Brett Cooper? There's a trend right now of people trying to figure out whether popular figures in the media are industry plants. And there are certainly people in Brett Cooper's audience that believe she is one. But I think there's a bit more going on here.
What does an industry plant mean? I mean, isn't she kind of? What is an plant? I said planet, but that's okay. Is the term used in the music industry to describe an artist who finds quick success with the help of record label or other industry connections, but pretends to be an independent and self-made? Oh, then she's not an industry plant because she doesn't pretend any of that. You showed us clips of them talking about finding some cute conservative girl that could get through to Gen Z or whatever. So it just sounds like they're honest about it.
First, let's look at a history of the term industry plant from Bubblegum Club. The term industry plant is derived colloquially from hip-hop, which is understood to mean an artist who has a major indie label backing their movement, but presents themselves as a homegrown startup to create the illusion of an organic following. The definition of an industry plant doesn't negate any prior work an artist has done in their past before their label. However, it just questions the legitimacy of one's growth and establishment in the industry. The problem with this term is outlined in this article and several others. The desire to point out someone as a plant often ignores talent they may genuinely have, and is often hard to distinguish from the process of how big media companies find new talent. It's also giving companies that rely on talent far too much credit in their presentation.
Well, it just sounds like they're lying about the presentation of the creator of like, oh yeah, this is this cool yada yada whatever person. But at the end of the day, like, oh, this is just like fresh new young star, nobody knows them, blah blah blah. But it's like, oh, they have quite a backlog of repertoire, or really more than anything else, it's like you don't even really admit that you're supporting that person, I guess, and they try to pretend that they're just some small little person, but they have a huge backing. That's really more what it sounds like it is. But Brett Cooper doesn't pretend that, so wouldn't she not be an industry plant?
An article in Loud and Quiet explains it well. There are many reasons why industry plants are a bogus construct. The first, most glaring and unsurmountable, is that if there was some kind of ready-made workable formula to break young artists into overnight sensations and viral megastars, then we'd be drowning in industry plants. That would be,
I feel like we are, no?
The de facto industry method. When applying this loose label to Brett Cooper, we have to be even more careful as the article.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. They can easily do something like that, and just for tests, like, okay, let's test this guy out. I feel like the I guess the barrier of entry is kind of low. It's kind of inexpensive. You just have to see if you can get a TikTok song to be viral, and then maybe that person will take off and become something, or maybe they won't. You move on to the next industry plant, you know.
Article also highlights how this term has been used to target women. The overwhelming majority of artists attacked and accused of being plants are young women. The idea being that they are not capable of attaining talent, fame, and success on their own at such a young age.
I mean, maybe more girls want to be music stars or something. I don't know. Who are we referring to?
No help, and therefore are immediately suspect.
Okay, I don't know if it's necessarily a sexist thing, but I mean, okay, whatever. Who cares?
In the Daily Wire's case,
I know that there are boys that also want to be like, music superstars and all that, but I could see more girls wanting to gravitate towards that because I feel like more boys would have a higher predisposition to want to be like athletes or some other type of a star, whereas there's probably more girls who want to do singing or, well, dancing as well. But okay.
Brett Cooper is far from the only obscure talent
Did we just create the song of the fucking summer?
they've found and groomed for the spotlight. Matt Walsh,
Grooming.
Schmeichel Knowles, and Ben Shapiro have all been,
Did you just say Schmeichel Knowles?
to varying degrees,
kidding.
polished and marketed to a wider audience. A 2018
Schmeichel Knowles?
Vanity Fair article in particular highlights how Ben Shapiro was groomed for the spotlight
Stop using that word. It feels weird.
and is very much a precursor of what would later be done for Brett Cooper. And we can see the limitations of the Daily Wire's ability to create stars when we look at its less successful commentators. If they were truly
Yeah, like Schmeichel Knowles,
capable
I liked his conversation with Pearl. I'm starting to get more feedback with that. It was like, oh no, you're wrong. She won that conversation, because I tend to agree with him more in that case. Hard not to when it's fucking Pearl.
taking anyone from anywhere and simply turning them into a popular conservative commentator, we wouldn't have such a wide range of success, such as when you compare Ben Shapiro.
I don't know
or
who the
Brett
fuck this old guy is. He looks like a ghost out of body. Thank you so much for the $2 from Eric Papa Gat. Thanks, brother. I appreciate that.
Cooper to the far less successful Michael Knowles and the even far, far less successful Crane and Company.
Who the fuck is this guy? He looks like Batman, and if the mask merged to his face. Yeah, I've never seen these people, but I guess they resonate with
The
somebody.
Daily Wire can only go so far in
They got their underdogs on the platform that resonate with a few people. They get them in, yada, yada, yada. Makes sense, I guess.
creating these conservative commentators. I think it's clear that Brett Cooper is bringing some degree of talent into this role. In Alice Sherwood's book, Authenticity, Reclaiming Reality in a Counterfeit Culture, she recounts the story of how Snapple went from a quirky upstart beverage
Whoa.
brand to be sold to a big corporation and stripped of its spirit, and then sold again, this time to a private equity firm, and then proceeded to rebound, seemingly recreating its old quirky self. But it did so not
Quirky.
in returning to its roots and its original recipe of being 100% juice, but instead adopting the signifiers of being that authentic juice. In 2011, the front label of a bottle of Snapple
Smart tactic.
might have said it was apple juice and all natural, but the back
Let me know next time you're on Twitch so I can use my free Prime sub. Yeah, man, I don't stream on Twitch, brother. I have not been on Twitch in a while. I mean,
revealed it was only 10% pear juice and had some
damn, what the fuck is a pear? Pair of tits.
mysterious natural flavors. In her book, Sherwood writes, "It takes more muscles to doubt than it does to believe. What the shopper sees at first sight in a convenience store
I feel like I like to doubt everything, but maybe that's just talking about looking at a product and believing it's performative authenticity, and then you have to be like, wait a minute,
supermarket is what they are most likely to believe.
what the hell is
What
this
this
thing?
encapsulates so well is what's being sold is a vibe. The product exists and
Oh, we love good vibes though.
might even be tasty, as pears supposedly have an appley flavor, but the packaging is doing the heavy lifting here, telling the person they're about to enjoy some apple juice that's all natural. It's just enough of that authenticity to get someone to buy the product when
Yeah, I guess I just don't give a shit. I don't care. It tastes like an apple. Apples aren't. Things aren't things anymore. Things are what we think they taste like. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm at. Maybe I'm just too fucking accepting of wild shit like that, but that's kind of where I'm at.
the product is
Yeah, I think I have free subs for Twitch too, and I don't use them. Like my wife probably has one, but I can, I don't know, man. I can't even, if I find a good person, I'll be like, hey, you know what? Give this person your sub. I'll figure it out eventually.
is just a cheaply produced knockoff of the thing or feeling the packaging is supposed to remind a person of. This is at the heart of Brett Cooper's inauthentic channel. She has the talent to, at least for a little while, attract an audience. That's not nothing. But her channel isn't just a showcase of her raw talent. It's wrapped up in something else, a branding that presents her as a regular person having fun on the internet in her bedroom, when the reality is she's working for a company that uses conservative branding to make money.
I guess. I feel like this, again, I kind of feel like some of these criticisms are forced. They don't necessarily, I don't know. I guess I'm not buying into this video too much today. I usually like this guy's videos. This one does not resonate with me. But you want to know what? That's life, brothers.
Brett Cooper is
What
the
is this?
10% pear juice in a bottle marked apple. The conservative commentator for Gen Z presents a
hell
counterfeit
is this?
politics to maintain an audience to generate ad revenue.
Fire.
But let's just remember that the problem is not
yeah,
Brett
fuck it.
Cooper. In the same way industry plants are agonized over because of the influence music labels have on what we hear, what all this concern over Brett Cooper's authenticity really highlights is the power of conservative media. Not just the Daily Wire, but the many right-wing media outlets from Fox News to Blaze Media. The money and power of these companies cannot be underestimated, and their ability to exploit the energy of talented individuals and fold them into their messaging is part of their success. What Brett Cooper best serves us is another example of how these media companies market themselves through deception. The only other part of Brett Cooper's career I haven't really touched on is how the Daily Wire is positioning her to be their go-to person for numerous acting projects.
Yeah, she's doing like the Snow White, right? I think that was so funny. Yeah.
Since she signed on with the company, I'm not sure there's a single production of theirs she hasn't acted in. She was a
Hey, why not?
newscaster in Lady Ballers.
What the hell's going on here?
She provided one of the voices on both Chip Chilla and Mr. Bertram. She's appearing in the upcoming dramatic series The Pendragon Cycle and starring in Snow White and the Evil Queen.
You think these will be any good, or are they going to be all just fucking dog shit? Because I kind of feel like they're going to be all fucking dog shit.
There isn't too much to say about these projects I haven't already mentioned in previous videos. So if
Okay.
you truly want me to endure Mr. Bertram, let me know, and I guess I'll look into making a video about it. As a closing thought, though,
You know, I like Adam Carolla. I used to jack off to his show. The Adam Carolla show. No, the one with the titties. The man show. I was a little kid. I don't even know if I was jerking off at that point. I think I wasn't. I think I just did. I knew something was happening in my body, but I liked it, but I didn't know it. I didn't understand it, you know?
while researching this video, I was left wondering what authenticity even means in the YouTube space. A lot of what we see Brett Cooper and the Daily Wire
I mean, like, I don't really see, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a good question. Oh, shit. I mean, it depends. Everybody's got to have a level of appealing to their audience, but without losing their own message. And yeah, I guess I don't really look at through YouTube as authenticity for how authentic I feel like YouTubers are on this platform. Brett Cooper seems to be among the average. So, hell yeah, I remember the Man Show, brother.
doing isn't entirely unique. Other companies have tried to buy their way into the influencer space to varying levels of success in the past, using the aesthetics of grassroots content creators to create the impression of being authentic voices in this space. But does adopting that style have an impact on the person actually taking up that role? Authenticity is a tough word to pin down sometimes, but an article in Psychology Today that I found while researching
I'm not gonna read. That's my authentic perspective there.
for this video made me reflect on this. One part read, studies show that the self you create and express in virtual spaces influences your belief, or lack thereof, in your real world self.
Sure. I just feel like it's easier to be yourself in an online virtual space, depending on the space. I mean, definitely when you're just typing on, you know, some kind of a social media space. I mean, there's a level of disconnect between you and the other person. You don't even think that they're real to some extent. Even me, when I do this, I mean, I'm not talking into a live audience of however many are in the chat. I don't know. 5? What? I'm just kind of doing my thing, but you know, even I sometimes struggle with this concept of like, are these real people on the other end watching me? Like, who would want to sit through this? Who would want to sit there listening to me talk about things? It's fucking crazy to me, you know?
Avatars are not without consequence, so take them, but not yourself, seriously. Identity is an all-the-time, rest-of-your-life process of becoming, and technology is here to stay. Negotiating that intersection can be confusing, and there will probably be missteps, but you need not settle for being a bland avatar. Give yourself permission to be a bold, whole person that you can be proud of, in flesh and pixels alike.
Well, isn't the avatar a big, bold person?
When that virtual self is paired with a profit incentive, it
How do they fuck the avatars, the blue avatars, you know?
seems less authentic to me. And that performance of authenticity, impacted by that profit incentive, has an impact on the performer as well. We become the people we pretend to be, after all.
I guess. I mean, profit incentive, I don't know. I mean, you need to make a profit to exist, no? We all have a profit incentive. You have a profit incentive, you know?
It's something I've felt in myself too. While operating this channel, I've learned so much about other people and their circumstances, and I've felt myself become more empathetic to causes and perspectives
Looks like it's made out of a poo, but it looks good.
I've never considered. Before starting this channel, I could say it's terrible to lie about someone's murdered loved one for a propaganda video, but I didn't know what that rage felt like until I found Lauren Southern doing just that in her Borderlands movie.
Oh yeah, I have no idea what that is. That sounds crazy.
And even now, I can still feel that anger lingering in my belly. On the other hand, when I read about how much something as simple as an identity being realized by a character in a sitcom can mean so much for the person it represents, the whole thing carries a greater weight. It's not just a nice thing to have, but an important gesture,
You making fun of my weight?
telling someone that they too get to be part of popular culture. There's also the darker side though, as the negativity that swirls around topics and figures urges me to be harsher and less understanding towards them, or competing voices tell me to sell out my convictions with the promise of profits and a false sense of balance. There are so many pressures urging creators in directions they never
Made sure we knew that this isn't him. This is just stock footage. Why do you not take like advertisements?
imagined for themselves when they start this YouTube journey.
Seems
not
silly,
all of
man.
them bad, but not all of them good either. And I'm sure it's incredibly difficult for anyone trying to figure out just how to navigate this space without losing something important in yourself.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I feel like I'm finally at a spot where I don't feel like I'm losing a part of myself. There have been moments where you feel like you get worked up, you know, and it's so hard to communicate, because I used to do my content, I get so worked up so often, and I don't know how much of that was really how I felt, or how much of that was like me getting riled up by the space I was in a little bit. It's hard to tell, but this is the most comfortable and happy I felt making content. I do well, and you know, it's just like calm. So
there are a lot of phonies and fakes in this political commentary space on the right and the left. And I'm not entirely convinced that Brett Cooper is one of them, at least not yet. When watching her videos, she'll often have like a line or two where she reflects a kind of kindness and sympathy towards the subject she's discussing. There doesn't seem to be that level of cruelty.
I would never have kindness towards the subject of English. Fucking, I hated that shit, man. Fuck that.
Or harshness you see from someone like Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder.
Yeah,
or...
I think Matt Walsh is like a fucking performative bitch. I think that when it comes to Matt Walsh, like his whole thing is he doesn't say anything particularly interesting or intelligent, or he doesn't give a new perspective. He just says it as hatefully as possible, because that's his plug. Is he's a dumb fucking idiot that says the same shit Ben Shapiro does, but more volatile, in a more volatile way, because he doesn't have anything that sets him apart. I look at like Ben Shapiro. I think he's an intelligent guy. He's a smart guy, even when I disagree with him. And that's his thing, is to be like an intelligent dude who will engage in like legitimate debate and conversation with people, not just kids at schools. He did do that a lot, I will say. But, you know, he talks to like legitimate people. He'll put himself on the line. So I can respect him. But when you see Matt Walsh, it's all just like babbling like a baby and just like screaming and trying to like be as bigoted as possible in his expression of his perspective. So
Tim Pool or many of the other commentators who have been doing this for far longer than she has. This, I think, is one of the long-standing impacts of doing this work. Adopting that harsher messaging is, I think, part of how this platform changes you. It hardens you and calcifies your opinion.
It hardens
and it dehumanizes the other side so much that it becomes so much easier to use the most hyperbolic language in describing them. And
yeah, for sure, I agree with that. Again, especially since there's a disconnect between the person and, like, you know, I'm looking at a camera. Well, I usually look at my screen, but you understand my point.
It's a shame to
I'm not talking to another physical person.
see someone who's only 22 years old falling into that same
And
trap.
even when you are, sometimes it's not like in person. So
Maybe it's simply too late for her, and she'll keep producing these terrible videos, getting increasingly harsh and mean and hardened by this space. And that will be her new authentic self. Perhaps
Maybe.
the one lesson for at least me or any other
or maybe she won't.
YouTube creator to take from this whole video is to not let this website turn us into what it has turned so many other people into. One thing I think Brett Cooper really represents is a growing trend in conservative media spaces when it comes to presenting these stories, relying far more on vague feelings and
Why the fuck is the quality on 1080 or 480p? The hell?
vibes and the barest minimum of evidence to support a claim. It makes it boring for me when there isn't interesting rabbit holes to dive in or research projects to undertake, because what is there to say to someone who is just flatly stating their opinion and not really backing it up with anything more than some empty rhetoric and poor reasoning? But even so, I hope this digression into authenticity and how that's reflected in creators in this space was in some way helpful to you and was interesting, and perhaps you'd like to see me get a little more experimental in my future videos, and you can do that by...
I mean, go for it, man. I thought, I don't know, I wasn't a big fan of this video. It felt like you were looking for something to talk about, but, you know, I could just be wrong. Critical drinker and shallow conservative critique. Interesting.
Pledging your support through my Patreon, like the lovely names you see coming up the screen here. You can also join them by becoming a member on YouTube.
All right, this is all just Patreon stuff. All right, interesting video. Pretty cool, I guess. All right.